G'day fellas, and welcome to a casted game of Age of Empires 4 today. We're on Gorge, watching two of the world's best players face off against each other. Two players, both Conqueror 3. You'll be familiar with one, a little less familiar with the other. Let's get into it. Spawning in the north of the map in the colour blue, playing as the English, representing Team Fox. It's Vortex. And on the south side of the map, in the colour purple, playing as the Ayyubids, representing Team GG, it's Chrysaor. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gorge. A pleasure to have your company on this. I don't even know what the day is today. Is it a Tuesday? Maybe a Wednesday? I'm not 100% sure. Tuesday, Wednesday, wherever you are in the world. Maybe you're not even watching it on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Maybe it's a Monday you're watching this on, and well, that probably wouldn't make sense unless you're watching it like next week. In which case, hello. Maybe things are different in the next week. You know, news moves fast in a week, and we're not going to talk too much about the news here today. Obviously, we touched on it a little bit. Some developments since that last story that you guys may have seen, but they did catch the guy that I was talking about. So there you go. Anyway, welcome. A casted game is here. Now, the question's going to be about where we see these two players go. Of course, Vortex on the English. It's a civilization that he's intimately familiar with. I'm curious to see whether he looks to push the envelope a little bit here. We can already see he's rounding up plenty of sheep, something that you love to do on Gorge. They've fixed it up. It used to be quite a bit of a tough map for sheep. Often it was almost similar to Himeyama in that one of the players could get 3 sheep and the other one could get 15 sheep. And you never knew which one it was going to be. You just hope that you weren't the one that got the 3 sheep. But we do start to see the House of Wisdom is coming now down for Chrysaor. We'll be paying attention to his age up as well. Just keep in mind that despite the Ayyubids releasing more than a year ago, we still don't actually have this UI element that shows for when they're actually aging up. On the other side, Vortex is about to click up. Which route does he go? Well, I suspect we already know the answer. It's going to be a council hall. It's an Abbey of Kings, damn it. We were so close. We were so close. I like to just gamble sometimes. And, well, I mean, when was the last time we saw a council hall? Must have been like a 2v2 game or something like that. I mean, it's been a while. Second TC is going to be coming out for him as well. We see a house, a mining camp. And checking back in with our Ayyubids, it's going to be, I would assume, Eco Wing 3 Vills? Eco Wing 3 Vills, that's what it's going to be. All right, we got that one right at least. There you go. All right, so for Vortex, we know what he's up to. He's 2 town centers. Where does he put the second TC? I mean, this doesn't really need a TC on it. This is quite safe. So he can get away with not putting it there. I think you could probably even put it on the deer. You put it on the deer. Actually, this is a nice little spot. I don't think you're going to put a TC down here, but it's quite nice. To be honest, the best spot's probably just going to be on the gold at the back. Nice little position here up against the Ayyubids. Typically what you're going to be seeing out of them is a fast castle strategy. So that's what I'm going to be expecting we see out of Chrysaor and, well, the outpost. If that isn't the biggest indicator or red flag you've ever seen of a person going to the castle age, I don't know what is. This is a man who says, I need my gold, and I need to make sure that I do not lose my gold. Now, if we ride on board with him, I don't know exactly how much he's scouted at this stage, but we can see he doesn't know about the Abbey, but he knows that Vortex is playing the English, and he will know that upon that age up, there will be an imminent king coming. And when it does come, it's going to mean that no gold available to anybody. So, fortunately, though, he will have that outpost up, which should allow him to get up into the 3rd age. All right, well, he manages to come through, spots out everything, sees the house is halfway built because, well, why not? You half-build a house just in case you need it. Half-built some point later on in the game. There you go. Age up about to come through now for Vortex. We'll just quickly check back. Yeah, still a little bit to go. And now that age up is coming in. Beautiful timing here for him. 4 minutes and 13. Still keeps it nice and early. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, is that a second outpost for Chrysaor? Interesting decision-making here to go for the second outpost. But I think I understand this, right? Because the risk that you run when you've got a position like this is that if you don't secure this bottom edge, there's always a risk that the enemy is going to run in. There's also the possibility of longbows. But on top of that, you might be thinking about having more villagers out on this gold. So instead of having 5 vills, you might have 6 or 7 or 8, and you want to make sure that they're all protected. So interesting decision making from him to do that. But we do now start to see these villagers make their way back. I suspect it is probably just going to be going down on the gold on the backside here. nice and safe. I don't think he can wedge it between the wood and the gold, but if you can, that's a pretty decent spot. Look at the amount of vills that he's got here. 10 vills on gold. There it is. It does actually look like it might be flush against these trees, which always feels incredible when you can get it up against those resources like that. How many sheep are we talking back here as well? He's still got 8 sheep, which is 1,600 food. Not quite enough to get you up to the castle age, but there are still some carcasses there as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do start to see him make moves out towards the deer hunt, maybe transition over to farms as the classic English love to. You can see that he's actually taken all 3 of his straggler trees to start himself off with and then moved over onto the lumber camp. So really, really nice movement there. King down on the other side of the map. We can see 7 vills here for Chris Ayor, going to be jumping inside those outposts. So indeed, that was the case. It was very much so that he's got a few too many vills on gold, and he just wants to make sure that they're all going to be protected. It's not that there's too many. It's just that there's a lot of villagers. Age up going to be coming through shortly. Which direction does he go when he hits castle age? It's got to be the culture wing logistics, right? I don't think there's any other way, right, that you're doing it. And it's curious that he goes in that order. Like, I feel like culture wing logistics in the second age and then vills in the third age just makes so much more sense. But I don't know. It's like, it's a 4 vill difference, and I guess it does start to add up. And, you know, having the 3 vills now is nice. It gets you up a little bit faster. But I still think having those extra 4 vills is really, really nice. On top of that, it means that you can get your dervish out onto the map, and like you can have a dervish over here, and you can deny those relics that are furthest away as soon as you possibly age up. Let's have a look and see. He's going to go with advancement instead. So instead of going for logistics, goes up with advancement. So quite a quick age up coming through for him. Clicking up before the 7-minute mark. Now, checking in once again with Vortex, we start to see a pattern beginning to build. He's going to be going for a whole bunch of farms, 8 vills, all now migrating over to drop down some farms. And Vortex with the second town center obviously hasn't picked up a cent of gold, or a spot of gold, rather stone. Hasn't picked up a spot of stone since dropping down that second town center, and you wouldn't expect him to. The second town center is a very safe play. Now, I think the big question for me here is, because I know the answer as to where we're going. It's going to be castle age. It's going to be a white tower. The question is going to be about how he looks to play this out against the Ayyubids, a notoriously complex civ to fight against in the castle age. And does he potentially think about going Imperial age? Because one of the things that I've sort of seen a pattern with at the top level with English players, they just go fast Imperial. There's nothing you can do against the English. They are like this indefensible. They are this defensible, the indestructible bastion of economic prosperity. Look at that. Write that down on a calling card. Write that down on a Christmas card. Write that down on a postcard and say, I'm calling from England, the bastion of economic prosperity. sorry. I think bastion, and I think the upgrade in Age of Empires 3 that upgrades your walls from, they go from palisades to the big stone walls. I think it's called Bastion, if I remember correctly. There's also a character from Overwatch who's named Bastion. I don't know too much about Overwatch now, Overwatch 2. All I remember is when Overwatch first came out, I loved Bastion. He was so much fun. You would sit... For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's a first-person shooter. And what was fun about Bastion is that you could just plump yourself down on the ground and pretend that you were a turret. And you became the turret. And anyway, that was Bastion. I think they changed him. They got rid of that. And of course, you know, that was a terrible decision. Bastion was a hero of the people. But speaking of heroes of the people, Chris Ayor now in the castle age. We can see that he is going to be going into the mosque. Dervish going to be coming out shortly. Camel Lancers on the way towards the enemy base, just shy of the 9-minute mark here. So does have units out relatively early in this game. We also start to see upgrades coming through. It's going to be Iron Undermesh on the way for Chris Ayor, just to prevent any of those extra little bits of damage coming through, maybe from the English town centers, as he inevitably looks to dive them and take out some villagers. We'll check in with Vortex as the age up is about to come through for him. A beautiful timing that he's got here. 920, definitely not the fastest. If I remember correctly, we used to be able to hit age ups at like 830, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'm mistaken. Surely he couldn't be a minute behind the tempo. But you know, especially because he's gone 16 farms, and 16 farms is standard when you're doing 2 TCs. If you're going 3 TCs, then you're looking at 22 and 24 farms. But for 2 TCs, 16 is the standard. Looks like one Vill is going to be going down. No, gets it inside. No, I think the Vill did die. Yeah, it did die. a bit awkward. It does get inside the town center, but then it dies. White Tower is coming up now, a little bit after the 10-minute mark. No, I'm not misremembering, because I remember doing 3 TC booms with the English and getting the White Tower up at 10 minutes and 10 seconds with 3 TCs. So I wonder what is different. Maybe there's been some changes to tempo. I'd have to double check and see. Maybe I have to revisit my old English videos. But anyway, the age up comes through, and now for Vortex, the question is, where do you go from here? Does he look to play it out in Imperial Age? We initially saw this fast Imperial strategy developed from or by Puppy Paw, where basically the idea is you just kind of chill in the base, you make a whole bunch of longbows, and you just chill. That's essentially it. Now, normally you'd only want to do that if you've got a relatively defensible second gold. So if we have a look here for Vortex, he doesn't really have that, right? This is a great little spot up towards the north, where if you've got the Berkshire, you could put a Berkshire down here and you'd be very happy, right? Like for 8, you're talking 12k gold right here to secure with a single Berkshire. So that would be very instrumental if you can secure that. But I think more importantly, you're probably just going to be looking to place a Berkshire somewhere around this first town center. But we'll see exactly what the plan is here for Vortex and how many units he looks to add in and whether he does think about going up to that Imperial Age. King does get taken out. You hear that sound and you shudder a little bit thinking, oh, where did the king go? Where did the king go? Where was that sound? And now on the south side, or rather southwest side of the map, we see villagers beginning to go down. That's actually 2 villagers going down for Chrysaor early on. 4 Dervish. 4 Dervish? What are you doing with 4 Dervish? You've got 3 relics in the bag at the moment. Still looking to try and pick up more. Camels will collide and not actually be able to take out the knight. But it does make its way towards the enemy base. We'll switch it over to income per minute. Get a bit of an idea on where the comparison is between these two. We've got 432, 255, 420, and 250. So you're talking 500, about 1,300. Really? That's not a whole lot. And then you got 1,000. Yeah, you got 2k over here for Vortex. He is well and truly ahead at this stage of the game by about 600 to 700 resources per minute. But we do have villagers building, and we've got quite a bit of evasion happening at the moment as well. Second town center is now online for our Ayyubid player. Quite an early second town center, if I'm honest. I feel like more commonly you see the Ayyubids go for a few more units than you see that second and third TC come in from the Eco Wing. But not going to be the case today. Not going to be the case. Let's check in and see how Vortex is doing, though, and what the plan is for him. Now, keep in mind, he's got access to the White Tower, which will serve as his all-purpose production facilities, at least for the moment. He's going to be working towards a bit of a crossbow mass, and have a look at how many farms he's actually got back here. Not only do you see the 24 farms that we had right after Castle Age, he's now putting down 8 more farms. And you know what this means? What this says to me? You know, we talked about telegraphs a little bit earlier. The fact that an outpost on a gold vein for the Ayyubids is a telegraph that they're going Castle Age. Well, let me tell you right now, 32 farms for an English player this early. Consider that he's only got 64 vills, so literally half the economy is farming. That's an Imperial tilt. There's no way it's not. He is putting down a fair bit of production though, so maybe I better hold my breath for the moment, because it could just be men-at-arms that he's thinking about, maybe even spears. But I suspect as the English, you're probably going to want to play a combination of men-at-arms, crossbows, mix a couple spears, that sort of shenanigan. But sacred sites are now all taken. 5 out of the 5 relics have been captured by Chrysaor. So whilst there might be a little bit of a vil difference between these guys, 68 versus 48, keep in mind that there is a, you know, each relic is worth 2 vils, so that's 10 vils, and each sacred site's worth about 2.5 vils, so that's 7.5 vils. So you basically got the difference made up. And if we take a look at this renewed, this new visual up towards the top, indicating the economies, we'll see that it's a little bit closer. Chrysaor now sitting at a little bit over 2,000, whereas Vortex about 2,300, 2,400, somewhere in that region. So it's still it's a lot closer than what it was before. We'll say that much. But now we start to see plenty of camel lancers beginning to move throughout the map. A lot of units coming out for Chrysaor. He's really just looking to go 100%. I say looking to go 100% camel lancers, and then I see the crossbows at the top. Actually, 2 crossbows are going to be coming out. Vortex, have a look at the resources that he's got. Vils are making their way down towards the south, and this is something you've always got to be so careful with. Where is he going with this? So he definitely wants to go Berkshire here, especially because it's so early. You could get away with a Wingard. You don't really have anywhere to put it. I mean, maybe over here. The trouble is, if you go for the Wingard, there is a risk that you just die. With the Berkshire, that risk is going to be negligible. You know, as long as you can get the Berkshire up, Berkshire. I should be saying Berkshire. Apologies. With the Berkshire, as long as you can get it up, you're okay. But I like the fact that he's got this little raid going back here, because this is just bringing back all those troops and guaranteeing that he gets this up. And one of the things that's so important about getting this landmark up is that this is not a regular keep. A regular keep, if it fails to get online, you haven't really lost anything other than the resources associated with, you know, whatever it is that the enemy injured. Whereas in this circumstance, you're losing your age up. And that's quite big. So you're relying on getting up to the next age, unlocking that unique tech. And speaking of unique tech, go on, click it. There it is. Immediately click the enclosures button. He has clicked it, and we see him click wheelbarrow after. That's correct. He picked up an Imperial Age technology before he picked up his Dark Age wheelbarrow technology. That is how much he loves this English tech. And look, it makes sense, right? He was up to the Imperial Age at what, like in the 15th minute. It is, it's an impressive timing that he's got here. And now the Berkshire is going to be able to secure this additional gold, provides him a little bit more coverage towards the center, and you'll be able to use this as a stationing ground to head towards these sacred sites. But of course, now that he's in the Imperial Age, Chris is going to see that and naturally going to be migrating towards the Imperial Age as well. We only see one crossbow in queue at the moment. Keep in mind that he does have that second town center, so he's pumping, but not as many farms. Definitely not as many farms as the English player, that is for sure. And now that we've got enclosures about to arrive, click, there she goes. Now that enclosures has arrived, you can expect to see that gold income really start to boost now for Vortex, especially considering how many farms he's got. He's got 32 farms, beautiful little walls that he's got beginning to build up here. King's going to try and take some damage. He gets a nice little quick wall in there on the berries, and the Berkshire fires across the map. Crossbows getting some decent damage off as well. Elite upgrades coming through for them. He's also looking to pick up the upgrades for the men-at-arms, trying to get those upgrades through before his enemy undoubtedly reaches the Imperial Age. He's about to click up. What does he go for? I suspect he goes for military wing reinforcement here. Either that or Ayyubids. We've seen the Ayyubids be pretty decent, mainly in FFA, and I don't know if you've really got the range of an FFA game here to be picking Ayyubids. I think you're probably going to get more value from something like military wing reinforcements. But we can see that Criseo is struggling definitely with the food economy. Click up about to happen any second. And it is going to be the Ayyubids that he goes for. Okay, interesting decision to be moving into that. I wonder exactly what the thought process is. Obviously, it's nice to have the extra health on those production, or not production buildings, but those units that are being produced at the production buildings that are being buffed up. It doesn't affect the previous units or the currently existing units, and it only affects the units that come out of those buildings. Not all units, but camels now. Looking to try and cause some damage. Beautiful micro coming out from Criseo. Did you see the way that he pulled the camels back and then charged them all towards the back at the same time? Meanwhile, while this was happening, he's attempting to get a bit of a wall off as the Sacred Site victory is approaching, and I think he may have overcommitted there. Not only does he lose a lot of camels, he's also now lost this position as well, losing out those villagers, trying to get that wall up, attempting to get that wall up. We start to see more upgrades coming through. Elite men-at-arms now for Vortex. All right, well, triple Sacred Site not going to be held for much longer. Men-at-arms start making their way through. How does Criseo go about dealing with this? It looks like he's going to be opting or moving towards Horsemen. Horseman crossbow combo. A very nice combination here against what Vortex is probably going to be throwing down, which is going to be men-at-arms crossbow. So the idea is that your crossbows will kill the enemy men-at-arms, and your horsemen will kill the enemy crossbows. Now, in practice, that's a little bit different because the crossbows get shielded by the men-at-arms, and you got to try and do your dance, and they do their dance. And the most important thing is that the horsemen aren't hitting the men-at-arms, because the men-at-arms have got a lot of armor, so that when they are being hit by the horsemen, they're really not taking much damage, whereas the crossbows don't have a lot of armor, and they also take double damage. So the emphasis is very much so on the horseman crossbow player to make sure they're attacking the right thing. Whereas for the crossbows, you know, as long as they're firing, they're okay. For the men-at-arms, as long as they're tanking, they're okay. That's pretty much the thinking behind it. Age up comes through. Ayyubids have been popped out. And now beginning to push through. Mangonel is here. He's going to fire off and barely scratches the elite men-at-arms that runs through and looks to try and take him out. Nice little splits coming in. Does about half health on that elite crossbowman. You can just see how much struggle Chrysaor's got right now up against this English fast Imperial strategy. Sacred sites neutralized in the north as well. The king was the neutralizer. And now those Ayyubids are getting to work. You can see that he's shift-clicked them off into all the different production buildings. 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. He's still got quite a few extra. We see that Ayyubid actually goes down. Now, they can be retrained, if I remember correctly. I think you train them from the House of Wisdom. They come... I don't actually know how it works. I remember they made a change where basically that you can retrain them up to a certain amount, just to make sure that if you do lose them, you're going to be able to replace them. Now Chrysaor is going to look to try and defend in this position. We can see he's down about 30 vils. Keep in mind he does have 5 relics, so that number is a little bit closer to Vortex than what it appears. Horsemen now have the elite upgrades though for Chrysaor. This is exactly what he needs. He just... Ideally, what he wants is a whole bunch of stables with the Ayyubids. Yeah, just exactly like this. He's doing it really well. But pulling all these vils right here and building these stables, because you need these units yesterday. You need a lot of units. You need them right now. More farms coming up towards the south. Not a lot of food left on this map. 3rd town center, actually, for Chrysaor. So he needs to buy time. He needs to let that economy get decently sized. Hand cannoneers together with the horsemen, and you can see the horsemen were fighting against the men-at-arms. Horsemen now going to go around the backside. You can see the men-at-arms get pulled to the back. Horsemen don't want to be taking that fight. They want to be jumping on top of the crossbowmen. The crossbowmen, of course, taking out the hand cannoneers. This is exactly where they want to be right now, but he's doing a decent job in holding for the moment against the English onslaught. More horsemen continue to rally from the stables, and the repelling of the English has been successful. Very well played there by Chrysaor. Now, the difference between these two when it comes to their economy, we can see that 18 vils were lost in this engagement. He lost a couple a little bit earlier as well, but we'll go with 18 for the moment. The one saving grace he has is this 3rd town center, though. With this 3rd town center online, it means he's going to be producing villagers faster than his opponent, who's on that 2 TC. And as a result, he'll eventually catch up to him. It's going to take some time, but I suspect with Vortex and the lead that he's got right now, he'll be feeling quite comfortable from that economic perspective. All right, well, towards the top side, King, once again, unfortunately going to get caught out. Expect to hear that sound any second. There it is. And now slowly working down the production towards the south of the base. I've just realized, have a look at the difference between population. You got 96 population for Chrysaor, 170 for Vortex. And I think that's just the power of the English fast Imperial. There really wasn't much that could be done here by Chrysaor. I think the biggest issue was that he went for that 2nd TC quite early instead of going a little bit more all-in. But even then, like, let's say you go all-in. What do you really do against the White Tower? You got to go battering rams or trebuchets, and you don't really have the units to support that kind of siege infrastructure at that point. But now more production going to be going down. Vortex is looking to try and close this game out. Longbowmen now going to be coming through as well to help counter those units. Of course, the horsemen will be happy for this, but there are so many men-at-arms here. Look at this, 33 men-at-arms on the field. Just in this little blob, you've got 21 of them, and the horsemen are going to have to head away. Keep in mind, even if you had, let's say, 25 horsemen, it's still not a good fight for Chrysaor. He needs a lot more horsemen than what he's got. He needs to be moving towards, like, you know, 30, 35 horsemen, that sort of number, because he's going to try and pick up these longbowmen on the front line, men-at-arms at the back. He's going to bring them forward. Vortex now doing the right thing. Hand cannoneers firing off, and you can see Vortex focusing down each of those hand cannons on the back line. Just got them shift-clicked, making sure that as one goes down, they move on to the next one. Majority of the horsemen have come down. He's going to continue to rally in more and more horsemen. And the fast Imperial gameplay, we're seeing it at its strongest right now as Vortex on 181 pop continues to rally units into the base of the Ayyubids, more men-at-arms, and it just feels like Chrysaor doesn't have an answer to these men-at-arms at this stage of the game. He needed a little bit more time, he needed a little bit more space. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, the game is called with Chrysaor tapping out and Vortex coming out as the victor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave a link in the description to where you can watch Vortex live over on Twitch. He's probably playing right now, so go check him out. And of course, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.